The day you start focusing on yourself is the day your real life begins. Too many people spend their time looking at what everyone else is doing. They compare, they copy, and they try to keep up. But inside, they still feel lost. Why? Because they've never stopped to focus on their own life. If you don't make yourself a priority, you will always feel like you're following someone else's path. Focusing on yourself means getting real about what you want, where you're going, and what needs to change. It's about making choices that work for your life, not for someone else's opinion. It's not selfish, it's necessary. When you build yourself, you build your direction. In this talk, I'm going to walk you through how focusing on yourself can completely change your future. If you've been feeling stuck, distracted, or unsure where you're headed, this is the starting point you've been looking for. Chapter 1. Be clear about the life you truly want. You have to begin by asking yourself a serious question. What exactly do you want your life to look like? Not tomorrow, not in 10 years, right now. Because if you're not clear about that, you'll spend your days chasing things that mean nothing to you. You'll work hard, but you'll be working in the wrong direction. You'll be busy, but not productive in the way that changes your life. So many people live this way. They follow the crowd, they do what everyone else is doing, and they end up somewhere they never really wanted to be. If you want a real direction in life, you have to first be clear about where you want to go. Being clear means you strip away the noise. You remove the pressure to meet someone else's expectations. You stop trying to live a life that looks good on the outside, but feels empty inside. This is about looking at your own life honestly and saying, what do I want? What do I need to feel fulfilled? What matters enough that I'm willing to work for it every day? And when I say be clear, I don't mean vague dreams like I want to be successful or I want to be happy. Those are nice, but they're not direction. They're too broad. Being clear means getting specific. What kind of success, in what field, doing what kind of work, living in what kind of environment, with what kind of people around you? You can't hit a target you haven't defined. If you're not clear, you'll drift. You'll take whatever life throws at you, and the danger is, life will throw you a lot of distractions, opportunities that look good but aren't right for you, advice from people who don't understand your vision, situations that eat up your time but give you nothing back. If you don't have clarity, you'll say yes to the wrong things, and every wrong yes takes you further away from your real path. So, step 1 is to make your vision sharp enough that you can recognize what belongs in your life and what doesn't. Clarity doesn't come from thinking about it for 5 minutes. It comes from sitting down with yourself and asking hard questions. What makes you feel alive? What work would you still do if you weren't being paid for it? What values are you not willing to compromise on? What do you want your days to look like? Not in theory, but in reality. Don't be afraid to be honest, even if your answers don't match what people expect of you. This is your life, not theirs. Some people avoid clarity because they're afraid of making the wrong choice. They think, what if I pick a direction and it turns out to be wrong? But the truth is, not choosing is worse. Not choosing keeps you stuck in the same place, wasting time. Even if you choose a path and later realize it's not right, you can adjust, you can change course, but you can't adjust something you never started. Clarity is not about having every detail figured out. It's about knowing enough to take the first steps and keeping your eyes open so you can refine your path as you go. When you know what you want, decisions become easier. You stop debating over every little thing. You stop wondering if you should do this or that, because you already know what lines up with your goals. It's like turning down the volume on the world. so you can hear your own voice clearly. And that voice is the only one you should be following when it comes to building the life you want. Clarity also demands honesty about your current reality. You have to see where you are now so you can figure out how to get to where you want to be. What skills do you need to learn? What habits do you need to drop? What connections do you need to build? If your dream is to run your own business, but you have no idea how to manage money, you know where to start learning. If your dream is to be in top physical shape, but you're eating poorly and not moving enough, you know what changes to make. Without seeing your reality clearly, your vision remains a fantasy. Here's the part most people miss. Clarity isn't just about the big picture. It's also about the daily actions. If you know you want to be financially free, then you know you can't waste your paycheck on things you don't need. If you know you want a stronger mind, you know you have to read, study, and challenge yourself regularly. If you know you want better relationships, you know you need to be around the kind of people who lift you up instead of dragging you down. Your direction comes from aligning your daily behavior with your ultimate goals. Sometimes clarity requires removing things from your life. You can't see your path clearly if it's buried under obligations you don't care about or relationships that drain you. You have to be willing to say no to invitations, to commitments, to people that don't align with your direction. Every no to something unimportant is a yes to something that matters. And if saying no feels uncomfortable, remember this. Every time you agree to something that isn't for you, you're taking time and energy away from the life you say you want. Another trap is thinking you can be clear just by imagining a perfect future. Real clarity comes from doing. You can't always think your way into the right path. You have to try things, test ideas, take action, and see how it feels. Sometimes you won't know if something is right for you until you've done it for a while. And that's okay. Clarity grows through experience, not just thought. But you have to start somewhere. You also have to protect your clarity. Once you have it, guard it. People will challenge your vision. They'll tell you it's too hard, too risky, or unrealistic. They'll offer their own version of what your life should look like. And if you're not careful, their voices will start to drown out your own. This is why focusing on yourself is so important. When you know your direction, you're less likely to be swayed by outside noise. You become anchored in your own goals and values. One of the best ways to protect your clarity is to review it often. Write it down. Read it every morning. Remind yourself why you're on this path, especially on the days when it feels hard. Because there will be days when your motivation fades. That's when your clarity becomes your anchor. It's what keeps you going when excitement fades and challenges show up. Clarity also demands that you take responsibility for your choices. You can't blame the economy, your boss, your family, or your circumstances for the life you're building. If you want to own your future, you have to own your decisions today. Every step you take is shaping the road ahead. If you want a different future, you have to start making different choices now. Clarity helps you see what those choices should be. Now here's the deeper truth. Clarity is freedom. When you know what you want, you stop wasting time chasing what you don't. You stop caring about impressing people who don't matter. You stop measuring yourself against someone else's life. You're free to build what matters to you at your own pace, in your own way, and that is the foundation of a life with real direction. Don't wait for clarity to appear on its own. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you think you have all the answers. Start now. Ask yourself the hard questions. Get specific about what you want. Remove the noise. Begin taking steps that move you closer to the life you've defined for yourself. Because every day you delay is a day you're living without direction. And you deserve more than that. The world is full of people who never took the time to decide what they wanted. They end up living by default, not by design. Don't be one of them. Take control. Choose your direction, make it clear, and then commit to walking that path every single day until the life you want becomes the life you live. Chapter 2. Work on the skills that will change your future. If you want to change your future, you must take a serious look at your skills today. The truth is, your skills are the tools you use to create opportunities, and if those tools are weak or outdated, you're going to struggle to build the life you want. Many people think the future will somehow improve simply because they hope it will. But the future only improves when you improve. And the fastest way to improve is by working on skills that will actually move your life forward. Skills are what make you valuable in the marketplace, but they're also what make you capable of handling life better. Think about where you want to be 5 or 10 years from now. Picture yourself living the kind of life you dream about. Now ask yourself, what would the person living that life know how to do that I don't know how to do yet? That's where your work begins. You can't just wish for a better job, better income, or better opportunities. You have to become the kind of person who can create those outcomes, and that means building the right abilities. It's important to be intentional about this. Too many people learn things that don't add much value to their life or their future. They spend hours picking up random bits of knowledge that never get applied. That's not progress. It's just activity. You need to focus on skills that directly connect to the future you want to build. If you want to start a business, you should be learning how to market, sell, manage finances, and lead people. If you want a career in a competitive industry, you should be learning the technical abilities and problem-solving skills that set you apart from the average person. This is not about collecting skills for the sake of it. It's about strategic development. Every skill you choose to learn should be tied to a specific result you want in your life. You have to make this connection very clear for yourself, because when you do, learning becomes a lot more meaningful. You're not just learning because it's good to know. You're learning because it's going to change the level of opportunities you have. Another thing to remember is that skill development is not an overnight process. You don't get good at something just because you tried it for a week. You have to be willing to put in focused, consistent effort over time. Most people quit before they've even scratched the surface of mastery. They try something, find it difficult, and move on to something else. That's not how you build power. The people who change their future are the ones who stay committed to improving their skills long after the excitement fades. You also have to challenge yourself with skills that make you uncomfortable. It's easy to keep working on the things you're already good at, but your future won't change much if you stay in the comfort zone. If public speaking scares you but your goals require you to communicate with impact, then public speaking is the skill you must attack. If dealing with money feels intimidating but your future requires financial control, then you must face that discomfort and learn how to manage it. The skills that make the biggest difference are often the ones we avoid because they force us to grow in uncomfortable ways. And while we're on the subject of discomfort, don't expect skill building to be convenient. You will have to carve out time. You will have to give up certain distractions. You might have to say no to social events or entertainment so you can invest those hours into practice and learning. People will tell you to find balance, but when you're building a future, sometimes balance has to take a back seat to focus. The sacrifices you make now are what create the freedom and opportunities later. Another thing to understand is that skill development is a moving target. The world changes, industries shift, and what is valuable today might be less valuable 5 years from now. That's why you need to keep updating your skills. You can't rely on what you learned years ago to carry you forward forever. The marketplace rewards those who adapt, who keep learning, and who are willing to reinvent themselves when necessary. If you stop learning, you start falling behind, even if you're good at what you do right now. You should also learn skills in layers. Don't just focus on one narrow ability. Look for skills that complement each other and make you more well-rounded. For example, being a great technician is good, but if you can also communicate well, lead a team, and manage a project from start to finish, you're far more valuable. Each layer you add gives you more flexibility, more opportunities, and more control over your future. And remember, not all skills are technical. Emotional intelligence, self-discipline, time management, negotiation, these are skills too. They may not sound as flashy as learning a new technology or mastering a trade, but they're often the difference between success and failure. People lose opportunities all the time, not because they aren't smart enough, but because they can't manage themselves, work with others, or handle pressure. These soft skills are actually hard to master, and the people who have them stand out in any field. The process of building skills should be measurable. You can't just say, "I'm learning," without tracking whether you're actually getting better. Set specific goals for your skill development. If you're learning a new language, decide how many words or phrases you'll master each week. If you're learning to code, decide what projects you'll complete by a certain date. Progress is motivating, but you can't feel that motivation unless you can see it. There's also a big difference between passively learning and actively applying. Reading about a skill or watching videos about it is a starting point, but it's not enough. You need to use it in real situations. The fastest way to get better is to put your skills into action as soon as possible. Make mistakes, learn from them, and adjust. This is how you move from knowing something in theory to owning it in practice. Sometimes you'll feel like you're not improving fast enough. That's normal. Skill growth often happens in slow, invisible stages. You might practice for weeks without noticing a big change, and then suddenly something clicks. The important thing is to stay committed through the slow phases. Quitting too soon means you'll never reach the point where the results start to show. Don't wait for the perfect conditions to start. You might think you need more time, better resources, or a perfect plan before you begin working on a skill. That's just another form of procrastination. Start where you are with what you have. You can improve your tools and methods as you go. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll have something to build on. One of the most overlooked aspects of skill development is finding the right people to learn from. Mentors, coaches, experienced colleagues, they can speed up your progress by years. They can point out mistakes you don't see and show you smarter ways to improve. But you have to be willing to listen, take feedback seriously, and apply it. Learning from others is not a sign of weakness. It's a shortcut to mastery. Your environment also matters. If you surround yourself with people who value growth, you'll push yourself harder. If you're surrounded by people who are content with mediocrity, it's easy to settle for less than you're capable of. Seek out environments where learning is normal, where effort is respected, and where results are celebrated. The truth is, working on your skills is one of the most empowering things you can do for your future. Skills can't be taken away from you. They're yours to keep, and they compound over time. Each new skill makes you a little more capable, a little more independent, and a lot more confident. Confidence doesn't come from wishing for success. It comes from knowing you can handle what life throws at you because you've built the abilities to deal with it. In the end, your skills are the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. They're the foundation for your goals, your income, your influence, and your ability to create the kind of life you want. So work on them like your future depends on it. because it does. Every hour you spend learning something useful is an investment in a future where you have more choices, more freedom, and more control over your own direction. That's the real reward of working on the skills that will change your future.
Chapter 3. Ignore the noise that pulls you off your path. One of the greatest challenges in building real direction in life is learning how to block out the noise that constantly tries to pull you off your path. The noise comes in many forms. It can be the opinions of people who don't understand your vision, the endless stream of distractions that fill your phone, the constant flow of news and trends that make you question your decisions, and the subtle but dangerous pull of comparing yourself to others. If you don't learn how to ignore these distractions, your focus will scatter and your progress will slow to a crawl. Noise has a way of convincing you that it's urgent. It makes you feel like you have to pay attention to it right now. It can disguise itself as important information or helpful advice, but often it's nothing more than a distraction from the work that matters. If you're not careful, you'll spend hours, days, even years reacting to the noise instead of building your own path. That's why you need to train yourself to quickly recognize when something is pulling you away from your priorities. Every time you get pulled into someone else's drama, every time you get lost scrolling through meaningless updates, every time you stop what you're doing to answer something that could easily wait, you're trading a piece of your future for a moment of distraction. The worst part is that most people don't even notice it happening until they look back and wonder where their time went. You can't afford to live like that if you want a clear and purposeful direction in life. The first step is to decide whose voice truly matters to you. Not every opinion is worth listening to. There will always be people who think they know what's best for you, but their perspective is shaped by their own fears, limits, and experiences. You have to be careful about accepting advice from people who haven't walked the road you're trying to walk. If they haven't achieved what you want to achieve, their guidance might not be what you need. The people whose opinions matter are the ones who understand your goals, respect your vision, and can offer insight based on real experience. Once you've decided whose voice counts, you have to make a conscious choice to tune out the rest. This is not about being rude, it's about protecting your mental space. Every time you allow unhelpful voices into your head, they plant seeds of doubt. Doubt leads to hesitation, and hesitation slows your progress. You can't move confidently toward your goals if you're constantly second-guessing yourself because of the noise around you. Technology makes ignoring noise harder than ever. Your phone alone is a constant source of interruption. Notifications, messages, updates, they're designed to steal your attention. If you let them, they'll control your schedule instead of you controlling your schedule. The truth is, most notifications aren't urgent. You don't need to respond instantly to every message. You don't need to check every update the moment it arrives. The more you can create boundaries with your technology, the more control you'll regain over your focus. Social media is one of the loudest forms of noise in today's world. It's a never-ending comparison game. You see the highlights of other people's lives and start questioning your own progress. You see their achievements without seeing the struggles it took to get there. Before you know it, you're measuring your worth against someone else's story. That's a dangerous way to live, because it shifts your focus from your own journey to theirs. You can't follow your path if you're busy watching theirs. Another kind of noise is the constant pressure to keep up with trends. The world moves fast, and there's always something new to chase, a new way of working, a new business model, a new must-have habit. If you're not careful, you'll spend your time jumping from one thing to the next, without ever sticking with something long enough to see results. Direction requires consistency, and you can't be consistent if you're always chasing the latest thing. Even well-meaning people can become a source of noise. Friends and family might try to talk you out of your plans because they think they're protecting you from failure. but often they're just projecting their own fears. They might mean well, but their advice can still lead you off course. You have to be strong enough to politely hear them out, but keep your decisions aligned with your own values and goals. There's also the noise of your own doubts and insecurities. Sometimes the loudest voice pulling you off your path is the one in your head telling you that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, or that you'll never make it. These thoughts are often just echoes of past criticism or failure, but they feel real in the moment. You have to challenge them. You have to remind yourself that you're building something for the long term, and that growth takes time. To ignore the noise, you need a clear plan for your life. When you know exactly what you're working toward, it's much easier to recognize when something doesn't fit. Your plan acts like a filter. If an opportunity or request doesn't align with it, you know it's not worth your time right now. This doesn't mean you have to ignore everything forever. It means you choose what deserves your attention, based on whether it moves you closer to your goals. Protecting your focus requires boundaries. You may need to limit how often you check messages or set specific times for communication, so that your work time stays uninterrupted. You might need to spend less time around people who constantly distract you or pull you into unproductive conversations. You might even need to create quiet, technology-free blocks of time during your day to focus deeply on important work. These boundaries are not about being antisocial. They're about taking ownership of your life. One of the most effective ways to deal with noise is to replace it with purpose. If your day is filled with meaningful tasks that directly connect to your goals, you'll naturally have less space for distractions. When you're deeply engaged in something that matters to you, the pull of social media, gossip, or pointless debates becomes weaker. You're too busy building something important to waste time on noise. Another important habit is learning to pause before you respond. Not every message or request deserves an immediate answer. Take a moment to consider whether it's relevant to your current priority. If it isn't, set it aside for later, or let it go entirely. This one habit can save you hours of wasted time each week. The people who stay on their path are not necessarily the most talented or the luckiest. They're often just the ones who learned to say no to what doesn't matter. They chose to protect their energy, their focus, and their time as if their future depended on it, because it does. Ignoring the noise also means letting go of the need to prove yourself to everyone. You don't have to explain every choice you make. You don't have to convince people to agree with your path. Your results will speak for themselves over time. The more you try to defend your decisions, the more you open yourself up to being pulled into debates that go nowhere. Stay focused on doing the work. That's where your energy belongs. It's also worth remembering that not all noise comes from outside sources. Some of it comes from within. When you take on too many projects at once, if you're constantly switching between goals, you're creating your own distractions. Focus on one or two important priorities at a time. Finish them, then move on. This is how you create momentum without scattering your energy. You have to be deliberate about creating an environment that supports focus. Surround yourself with people who respect your time and encourage your growth. Spend time in places where you can think clearly and work without constant interruptions. Design your surroundings to make focus easier and distractions harder. In the long run, the ability to ignore the noise is what allows you to build a meaningful life. Without it, you'll keep getting pulled in directions that don't serve you. With it, you can move steadily toward your goals even when the world around you is chaotic. It's not about shutting yourself off from everything. It's about learning to recognize what's worth your attention and what is. When you choose to ignore the noise, you're choosing your future over temporary distractions. You're deciding that your vision matters more than every passing opinion or every trending headline. You're telling yourself that your time is valuable and you're not going to give it away to things that don't help you grow. That's the mindset that keeps you on your path until you reach the life you set out to build.
Chapter 4. Do one important thing before the day ends. Every day you live is a small piece of your future. What you do with those hours determines where you will stand months and years from now. Most people go through their days letting events push them in whatever direction they happen to come. They handle small tasks, respond to other people's demands,
and fill the rest of the time with distractions. By the time night comes, they've been busy but not effective. The day ends, and they have nothing meaningful to show for it. That is why committing to doing at least one truly important thing before the day ends can change the direction of your life. It forces you to stop letting days slip away without progress. An important thing is not just anything on your to-do list. It's not about clearing emails, organizing your desk, or running errands. Those things may need to get done, but they rarely move your life forward in a meaningful way. An important thing is a step that builds your future, strengthens your position, or solves a major problem. It could be making a critical decision you've been avoiding, completing a piece of work that advances a big goal, or having a conversation that opens new opportunities. It's the action that, if done consistently, changes your life over time. When you choose one important thing each day, you are choosing to prioritize impact over activity. The truth is, life is full of things that seem urgent but are not truly important. They grab your attention because they have a deadline, because someone else wants them done, or because they're easy to complete. But urgency is not the same as importance. Many urgent things do nothing to improve your future. That's why you must consciously decide to spend time on what matters most. This habit works because it creates a standard for your days. Instead of measuring success by how many tasks you finished, you measure it by whether you advanced your real goals. You could spend the whole day doing minor work and still fail if you didn't do something that mattered. On the other hand, even a day filled with interruptions and setbacks can still be a success if you accomplished that one critical thing. This mindset shift changes how you approach your time. It also trains you to think strategically. You begin each day asking yourself, what's the most valuable thing I could get done today? This forces you to review your bigger goals, evaluate your current situation, and choose actions that create the most progress. You stop letting your day be shaped entirely by what shows up in your inbox or by what other people want from you. You take back control over your time. At first, it might feel hard to identify that one thing. Your list might be full of tasks that all seem equally important. But if you ask yourself which task will have the biggest positive effect on your future, the choice usually becomes clear. For example, if you're trying to grow your career, maybe the most important thing today is preparing a proposal that will impress your boss or client. If you're working on your health, maybe it's committing to that workout even when you don't feel like it. If you're building a business, maybe it's making that one sales call that could lead to a major client. The important thing changes from day to day, but the habit of identifying and completing it stays the same. Over time, this habit compounds. Small daily wins add up to huge long-term results. One important action per day might not seem like much, but after a year you've completed over 300 actions that mattered. That's how transformation happens, by consistent progress on the things that count. Doing one important thing before the day ends also gives you a sense of accomplishment that nothing else can match. You go to bed knowing you made progress that day, no matter what else happened. That feeling builds confidence. Confidence leads to greater commitment, and greater commitment leads to bigger results. Success grows from the discipline of finishing what matters. To make this habit work, you have to protect time for it. Important things often require deep focus, and deep focus doesn't happen in the middle of constant interruption. You might have to schedule this time in your calendar like you would a meeting. Treat it as non-negotiable. If you wait for a free moment to do it, the day will fill with less important things and you'll run out of energy before you get to it. It's also critical to start small if you need to. Don't think your one important thing has to be something huge every day. Some days it might be completing a simple but high-value action. Other days it might be working on a bigger project in small, manageable pieces. What matters is that it's meaningful progress. The goal is consistency, not perfection. This habit also requires you to be honest with yourself. Many people avoid their most important tasks because they're difficult or uncomfortable. They require effort, risk, or vulnerability. It's easier to do busy work and feel productive than to face the challenge that really matters. But that avoidance comes with a cost. The cost of a life stuck in the same place. The willingness to face the uncomfortable tasks is what separates those who grow from those who don't. One way to make this easier is to commit to doing your important thing early in the day, if possible. When you tackle it first, you eliminate the chance of running out of time or energy later. You start the day with a win, which gives you momentum for everything else. But even if you can't do it early, make sure it gets done before the day ends. That's the promise you keep to yourself. The power of this habit goes beyond productivity. It strengthens your self-respect. Every time you identify and complete that one important thing, you prove to yourself that you can set priorities and follow through. Over time, this builds a powerful sense of trust in yourself. You stop questioning whether you can handle challenges because you've proven it day after day. It also sends a message to others. When people see that you consistently focus on meaningful work, they begin to trust your reliability and respect your discipline. You become known as someone who delivers results, not just someone who stays busy. This reputation opens doors, builds relationships, and creates opportunities you wouldn't have otherwise. There will be days when everything seems to conspire against you: emergencies, delays, unexpected demands. On those days, doing your one important thing might take more effort, but it's even more valuable. Completing it under pressure proves your commitment to your goals. It's easy to make progress when conditions are perfect. The real test is whether you can keep moving forward when they're not. Over time, this habit teaches you that progress is always possible. No matter how chaotic a day is, no matter how many things go wrong, you can still end the day having done something that matters. That mindset is powerful because it removes the excuse of "I didn't have time." You had time, you just had to choose how to use it. Another benefit is that it keeps your larger goals alive in your daily life. Many people set goals at the beginning of the year and then forget about them as daily routines take over. By asking yourself every day what the most important thing is, you keep your big goals in front of you. You keep aligning your actions with your vision. You keep reminding your actions with your vision. You keep reminding yourself why you're doing the work. This is how you avoid the trap of drifting through life. You stop letting your days be controlled entirely by outside forces. You stop ending the week wondering where the time went. You replace vague intentions with deliberate action, and you do it in a way that's manageable and repeatable for the long term. The truth is, the difference between people who create the life they want and people who don't is not always massive talent or resources. Often it's the discipline to keep making small, meaningful moves forward every day. One important thing per day may seem small in the moment, but it's how you build direction, momentum, and ultimately the life you want to live. End each day with the knowledge that you've moved your life forward in some way that truly matters. That's how you keep building progress brick by brick. That's how you keep yourself from drifting. And that's how, over time, you create a future you're proud to live in.
Chapter 5. Stop doing the things that keep you from growing. If you want to grow, you have to face a hard truth. It's not only about adding new things to your life, it's also about removing the things that are holding you back. Many people think progress is only about learning more, doing more, or taking on new opportunities. But growth is just as much about subtraction as it is about addition. The habits, routines, and behaviors you keep repeating, even the ones you hardly notice, are often the very reason you stay in the same place year after year. Until you stop doing them, no amount of new effort will move you far. You can't keep watering weeds and expect flowers to grow. If you keep feeding the very things that limit you, they'll keep taking up the time, energy, and mental space you need for what truly matters. Growth requires making space for better things to take root. That means you have to get honest about what you're doing that is slowing you down, weakening your focus, or damaging your potential. This honesty can be uncomfortable because it often forces you to admit that you've been your own biggest obstacle in certain areas.
But that discomfort is the starting point of real change. One of the most common things that keeps people from growing is wasting time on low-value activities. This isn't just about mindless entertainment, although that's part of it. It's about spending hours on things that bring you no closer to the life you want. Checking updates every few minutes, saying yes to every request, overcommitting to things that don't matter. These are all ways people drain their own resources without realizing it. The time you spend on things that don't move you forward is time you're taking away from the things that could change your life. Another growth killer is holding on to toxic relationships. The people you spend the most time with shape your mindset more than you realize. If you're surrounded by people who discourage you, drain your energy, or constantly pull you into negativity, it's going to be harder to grow. You can't rise higher if you're constantly pulled back down by the people around you. This doesn't always mean cutting people out completely, but it does mean limiting your exposure to those who make it harder for you to become the person you want to be. You also have to stop feeding habits that keep you comfortable but stagnant. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it's the enemy of growth. Staying in the same routine year after year because it feels safe will keep you exactly where you are. If you want to grow, you have to stop avoiding discomfort. You have to be willing to give up the habits that protect you from challenge, even if those habits feel like a part of who you are. Comfort can disguise itself as harmless relaxation or taking it easy, but when it becomes your default state, it quietly robs you of progress. Excuses are another big reason people fail to grow. Excuses are easy. They protect your ego by shifting the responsibility away from you. You tell yourself you're too busy, too tired, too inexperienced, or that it's just not the right time. But excuses are lies that feel like truth, because they keep you from facing the discomfort of action. If you want to grow, you have to stop giving yourself permission to stay the same. You have to call out your own excuses and refuse to let them guide your choices. Procrastination is one of the most damaging habits you can keep. Every time you delay taking action on something important, you not only lose time, you lose momentum. Growth comes from movement, not from waiting for the perfect moment. The more you delay, the harder it becomes to start. The task feels bigger, the fear grows stronger, and you become more comfortable doing nothing. You have to break this pattern by acting before you feel ready. Progress is built on imperfect action, not on endless preparation. You must also stop underestimating the effect of your environment. If you spend your days in an environment full of distraction, disorder, and constant interruptions, it will be harder for you to focus and make progress. The people, places, and situations you surround yourself with either feed your growth or feed your stagnation. If your environment is working against you, you have to change it or at least control it enough so you can protect your growth. Another habit that keeps people from growing is refusing to take responsibility for their result. Blaming others, blaming circumstances, or blaming bad luck takes away your power to change. When you blame something outside yourself, you're saying the solution is also outside yourself. Growth requires taking ownership. Even if something isn't your fault, your progress depends on what you choose to do about it. The moment you take responsibility for where you are, you gain the power to change where you're going. Fear of failure is another major growth stopper. Many people avoid trying new things or taking risks because they're afraid of looking foolish or making mistakes. But avoiding failure also means avoiding growth. Every skill, every breakthrough, every major achievement requires going through a period of struggle and uncertainty. If you only do what feels safe, you'll stay exactly where you are. You have to stop letting fear decide your limits. You must also let go of the belief that you can grow without changing your daily behavior. Many people want a different life, but they keep living their days in exactly the same way. They want more money but keep spending without a plan. They want better health, but keep eating and moving the same way. They want stronger relationships, but keep communicating in the same pattern. You can't grow without changing your habits, and you can't change your habits without changing your daily actions. Complaining is another silent killer of growth. Complaining keeps your attention on what's wrong instead of what you can do to make it better. It focuses your mind on problems without moving towards solutions. People who complain often believe they're just venting, but they're actually reinforcing a mindset of helplessness. You have to stop giving so much attention to what you don't like and start putting that energy into fixing it or moving past it. Another thing that holds you back is saying yes when you should say no. Every time you agree to something that doesn't serve your goals, you're giving away time and energy that you could be using for growth. This might be agreeing to extra work that doesn't align with your priorities, helping people who only take without giving back, or committing to events that add no value to your life. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful skills you can develop if you want to grow. Comparison is also a form of self-sabotage. When you measure yourself against someone else's journey, you either feel discouraged because you're behind or overconfident because you're ahead. Neither mindset helps you grow. Growth is personal. It's about improving who you were yesterday, not about beating someone else. You have to stop letting comparison dictate your self-worth or your pace. Self-doubt is another habit to break. It stops you from taking action, from speaking up, from trying new things. The voice of self-doubt tells you you're not ready, not capable, not worthy. But self-doubt is only a thought, it's not the truth. If you act despite it, it loses its power. If you let it control you, it becomes a cage you live in. You have to stop listening to it as if it's an authority on your potential. Avoiding hard conversations is another way people hold themselves back. Whether it's addressing an issue with a coworker, setting boundaries with a friend, or asking for what you need, avoiding these conversations keeps you stuck in situations that don't serve you. The longer you avoid them, the worse they become. Growth often requires you to speak up even when it's uncomfortable. You must also stop expecting change without consistent effort. Doing something once or twice won't transform your life. Growth is built through repetition, through showing up day after day. If you give up when progress feels slow, you're choosing comfort over growth. Consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Overthinking is another habit that prevents growth. Thinking has its place, but endless analysis keeps you stuck in planning mode without ever moving to action. You start imagining every possible problem, every possible outcome, and you end up paralyzed. The best way to break overthinking is to set a time limit for decisions and then act. Clarity comes from doing, not from thinking forever. Ultimately, stopping the things that keep you from growing is about reclaiming your time, your focus, and your energy. Every habit you remove creates space for something better. Every distraction you cut out frees up attention for what matters. Every excuse you eliminate makes room for responsibility. The more you remove the obstacles you've been carrying, the faster you can move forward. You can add all the new strategies, plans, and skills you want, but if you're still carrying the weight of bad habits, toxic influences, and wasted time, your progress will be slower than it needs to be. The key is to lighten your load so you can move freely toward the life you want. Growth is not just about what you do, it's just as much about what you stop doing. The sooner you make those choices, the sooner you'll create the space for real change.
Chapter 6. Spend time only on things that move you forward. Your time is the most valuable resource you have, and yet it's also the easiest thing to waste. Every day, you are given the same 24 hours as everyone else. How you use those hours determines whether you make progress toward your goals or stay stuck in the same place. People often believe they'll have more time later, that they can afford to waste a little now because they'll work harder tomorrow. But tomorrow is not promised, and even if it comes, you won't get back the hours you've already lost. If you want a life of real direction, you must learn to spend your time only on things that actually move you forward.
Moving forward means making intentional choices about where your attention and energy go. Too often, days are filled with activities that feel urgent but are ultimately meaningless to your long-term goals. Responding to every small request, saying yes to commitments out of guilt, allowing distractions to steal your focus. These are all ways you trade your future for temporary satisfaction or comfort. If you're serious about building the life you want, you have to stop letting every demand on your time get an automatic yes. Your time has to be earned by the value it brings to your journey. Start by looking at your life with complete honesty. Ask yourself, what in my daily routine actually moves me closer to my goals? Be specific. It's not enough to say you're busy or working hard. You can be busy all day and still get nowhere. Hard work in the wrong direction is just wasted effort. You have to identify which activities produce real progress and which ones simply keep you occupied. Once you know what moves you forward, you have to protect time for it. That means setting boundaries. It means being willing to say no to opportunities, requests, and even people who don't align with your priorities. This can be uncomfortable, especially if you're used to trying to please everyone. But every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that could change your life. You can't give your best to your goals if your time is constantly divided by things that don't matter. People often underestimate how many hours they lose to small distractions. A quick glance at your phone turns into 20 minutes of scrolling. A short conversation turns into an hour of gossip. An email reply pulls you into a chain of back and forth messages that could have been avoided entirely. These little moments add up, and before you know it, large chunks of your day are gone. This isn't about becoming a work machine with no room for rest. It's about being intentional, choosing where your minutes go instead of letting them slip away unnoticed. One of the keys to using time wisely is to work with focus. Multitasking might make you feel productive, but it usually just splits your attention and slows you down. If you want to make real progress, give your full attention to one important task at a time. Finish it and then move on. This level of focus allows you to produce work of higher quality in less time, leaving more room for the next step forward. Another important step is to align your schedule with your priorities. If something truly matters to you, it belongs in your daily plan, not squeezed in when you happen to have free time. The things that move you forward should be treated like non-negotiable appointments with yourself. Too many people put the most important work at the mercy of everything else, hoping they'll have time for it later. That's backwards. Build your day around your priorities, not around distractions. You also have to recognize the difference between being productive and being effective. Productivity is about doing a lot. Effectiveness is about doing what matters most. You can complete 20 small tasks and still be no closer to your goals than when you started. Effectiveness comes from identifying the few key actions that will create the biggest impact and focusing on those. When you focus on effectiveness, you make real progress, even if you accomplish fewer total tasks. A big part of spending time wisely is removing low-value activity. This might mean reducing time spent on entertainment that doesn't enrich your life, cutting back on conversations that lead nowhere, or limiting exposure to information that has no real use to you. It might also mean stopping work on projects that don't align with your long-term vision, even if you've already invested time in them. Just because you've started something doesn't mean it deserves more of your time if it isn't helping you grow. You must also learn to anticipate and avoid time traps. Time traps are situations, habits, or patterns that consistently pull you away from what's important. For some people, it's checking their phone first thing in the morning and getting lost in notifications. For others, it's accepting every meeting invite without questioning whether it's necessary. These patterns are predictable, and once you recognize them, you can create strategies to avoid them. Spending time only on what moves you forward also requires you to think long-term. Some activities may not bring immediate rewards, but are essential for your future. Learning a new skill, building relationships, or working on a big project might not give you instant results, but they're investments in your future success. These should always take priority over quick wins that don't last. It's equally important to make time for rest and renewal. Growth doesn't come from burning yourself out, it comes from working consistently over time. Rest isn't wasted time. It's preparation for your next step forward. But even rest should be intentional. Choose activities that truly recharge you, rather than those that leave you feeling drained afterward. Another principle to follow is tracking your time. Most people have no idea how much of their day is wasted until they start measuring it. For a week, keep track of where your hours go. Be brutally honest. This exercise often reveals that the things you think take just a few minutes actually consume large portions of your day. Once you see this, it becomes easier to cut the waste and focus on what matters. You must also evaluate your commitments regularly. Just because something made sense to do 6 months ago doesn't mean it still deserves your time today. Goals evolve, priorities shift, and so should your schedule. Be willing to let go of commitments that no longer serve your direction. This isn't quitting, it's refining your focus. Surrounding yourself with the right people can also help you spend your time wisely. When you're around people who are focused, driven, and goal-oriented, their habits influence you. You're less likely to waste time when the people around you are using theirs effectively. On the other hand, spending too much time with people who are unmotivated or easily distracted will pull you in the same direction. You also need to protect your time from your own bad habits. Sometimes the greatest thief of your time is you. It's the tendency to check things just for a minute, to delay starting on meaningful work, to keep refining a task instead of finishing it. Being aware of these tendencies is the first step to overcoming them. In the end, spending time only on things that move you forward is about discipline. It's the discipline to choose progress over comfort, to put long-term gain ahead of short-term pleasure, and to stay focused on what matters most, even when distractions are tempting. This discipline isn't built overnight, it's developed through daily choices. Every time you choose to work on something meaningful instead of wasting time, you're strengthening your ability to stay on course. Your future is built from the moments you're living right now. Every hour you spend on what matters is an investment in the life you want. Every hour you waste is an opportunity lost. There's no way to change the past, but you have complete control over what you do with the time you have today. If you consistently choose to spend that time only on what moves you forward, you'll find yourself living a life of direction, purpose, and achievement that others only dream of.
Chapter 7. Listen to your own thoughts more than others. Your life will always be filled with voices. They come from everywhere: family, friends, co-workers, strangers, media, society. Each voice carries an opinion about how you should live, what you should value, and what choices you should make. Some speak with care, others with authority, and many simply repeat what they've heard themselves. If you're not careful, these voices can become louder than your own. When that happens, you begin making decisions based on what others think is right for you instead of what you truly believe. And that's how people end up living lives that feel empty, even if they look successful from the outside. To live with direction, you have to train yourself to listen to your own thoughts more than you listen to the noise around you. Your thoughts are the only ones that are truly connected to your goals, your experiences, and your values. No one else can fully understand your vision because no one else is living your life. Even people who care about you can't feel the exact pull of your dreams or the exact weight of your challenges. That's why letting someone else's opinion override your own judgment can be dangerous. They're not the ones who will live with the consequences you are. Listening to yourself doesn't mean rejecting every piece of advice. It means filtering it. It means considering other perspectives, but ultimately making the decision that aligns with your truth.
When you build this ability, you stop being easily swayed. You stop abandoning your plans just because someone questions them. You begin to trust your own ability to navigate your path, but trusting yourself takes practice. Many people have spent so much of their lives being told what to do that they've stopped hearing their own voice clearly. They second-guess themselves on everything, looking for reassurance before they act. That habit keeps you dependent on others for confidence. The more you do it, the weaker your own decision-making muscle becomes. To reverse it, you have to start making decisions for yourself, even small ones, and standing by them. Each time you do, your confidence in your own judgment grows. One reason people rely so heavily on outside opinions is fear of being wrong. They think, if I follow someone else's advice and fail, at least it's not my fault. But that thinking robs you of power. Mistakes are a part of growth, and if you make a wrong choice based on your own judgment, you learn more from it than if you blindly follow someone else. You gain experience, insight, and resilience. Those are lessons you can't get by avoiding responsibility. You also have to be aware of how easily other people's words can plant doubt in your mind. Sometimes a single comment from someone can make you start questioning a decision you felt certain about. That's because you've given their opinion too much authority. The stronger your trust in yourself becomes, the less power these passing remarks will have over you. Spending time alone is one of the best ways to strengthen your own voice. When you're constantly surrounded by other people's input, it's harder to tell which thoughts are truly yours and which ones you've absorbed from others. Solitude gives you space to think without interference. It allows you to hear your own reasoning, weigh your own feelings, and find clarity. This isn't about isolating yourself from the world. It's about creating enough quiet to understand yourself. You should also develop the habit of questioning where other people's opinions are coming from. Are they speaking from experience, or are they speaking from fear? Are they offering guidance that aligns with your values, or are they projecting their own? When you see the motivation behind someone's words, you can better judge whether their input is worth taking serious. There's another danger in listening too much to others. You can start shaping your choices to avoid judgment. You begin to act in ways that are acceptable to others, even if they don't feel right to you. This slowly erodes your individuality. Instead of living according to your own standards, you start living to meet theirs. That's when life becomes a performance, instead of a genuine expression of who you are. Listening to yourself also means paying attention to how your body and mind react to situations. Your thoughts aren't just intellectual, they're also felt. When you're moving in the right direction, you often feel a sense of alignment. When you're not, you may feel resistance, unease, or constant doubt. Ignoring these signals in favor of what others tell you will eventually leave you disconnected from your own instincts. To strengthen your connection to your own thoughts, start keeping a journal. Writing down your ideas, feelings, and decisions helps you see patterns in your thinking. It also makes it easier to separate your true beliefs from the influence of others. Over time, you'll see that you have more wisdom than you give yourself credit for. Another step is to give yourself time before making big decisions. When you rush to act on someone else's advice, you skip the step of processing it for yourself. Take the time to sit with it, think about how it fits into your vision, whether it supports your values, and what the long-term consequences might be. Your own voice often becomes clearer when you slow down. It's also important to remember that not everyone who disagrees with you is against you. Sometimes people offer different opinions because they genuinely want to help. But even well-meaning advice can still be wrong for you. This is why you must have the courage to say, I appreciate your input, but I'm going to follow my own path. That courage comes from knowing your decisions are rooted in thought, not impulse. Over time, you'll find that the more you listen to yourself, the less validation you need from others. You'll stop measuring your worth by whether people agree with you. You'll stop seeking approval before taking action, and when you no longer depend on approval, you're free to take bolder steps toward your vision. You'll also notice that life feels more consistent. When you constantly change your direction based on other people's opinions, your path becomes chaotic. You start something, someone criticizes it, and you switch to something else. Months or years go by, and you've made little real progress. But when you follow your own thoughts, your direction stays steady. You might adjust along the way, but the adjustments come from your own reasoning, not from outside pressure. Another benefit of listening to yourself is that it strengthens your authenticity. People are drawn to those who are genuine. When you make choices that truly reflect who you are, others can feel it. Your confidence becomes natural instead of forced. You stop needing to convince people because your actions already show clarity and conviction. The discipline to listen to yourself also protects you from being manipulated. When you're easily swayed, you're vulnerable to people who want to use you for their own purposes. But when you're grounded in your own thoughts, you're harder to influence. You can listen to what they say, weigh it against your own judgment, and make a decision that serves you, not them. It's important to understand that your own voice won't always be the loudest at first. The more you've been conditioned to follow others, the quieter it might seem. But with time, attention, and practice, it grows stronger. You'll start to recognize it faster and trust it more. And when that happens, you'll find yourself making decisions with more certainty and less hesitation. Ultimately, your life is shaped by the decisions you make. Those decisions should come from your understanding of yourself, your goals, and your values, not from the noise around you. You can respect the experiences of others without giving them control over your path. You can consider advice without abandoning your own reasoning. And you can live in harmony with others while still staying true to yourself. When you choose to listen to your own thoughts more than others, you reclaim ownership of your life. You stop being pulled in 100 directions by every opinion you hear. You become centered, steady, and intentional. That's the mindset that allows you to walk your path with clarity and purpose, no matter how many voices are calling you to follow theirs. Chapter 8. Push through the days you feel like giving up. There will be days when the thought of continuing feels heavier than the work itself. You'll wake up without energy, without excitement, and without any clear reason to keep going. The path ahead will look too long, the challenges too great, and the progress too slow. On those days, giving up will seem like the easier choice, but those are the exact days that matter most. Anyone can keep moving when the road is smooth and motivation is high. The real test of character is whether you keep moving when every part of you wants to stop. When you push through those moments, you're building something far more valuable than the task itself. You're building resilience. You're training yourself to follow through even when it's inconvenient, exhausting, or uninspiring. That's what separates the people who reach their goals from those who quit halfway. It's not talent, luck, or even perfect planning that makes the difference. It's the willingness to keep going when your mind and body are telling you to stop. Part of pushing through is accepting that the journey will never be constant motivation. Motivation is temporary. It's unreliable. It's influenced by mood, energy levels, and circumstances. If you depend on motivation to keep going, you'll quit every time it disappears. Discipline is what carries you forward when motivation runs out. Discipline is the decision to show up and do the work because you made a commitment, not because you feel like it. When you feel like giving up, one of the first things you have to do is shift your focus away from how far you still have to go. Looking too far ahead can make the journey feel overwhelming. Instead, focus on the next small step. Don't think about the entire project, the entire goal, or the entire challenge. Think about the one thing you can do right now to make progress. Small steps are less intimidating, but they build momentum, and momentum has a way of making the next step easier. You also have to remind yourself why you started. When the struggle is fresh in your mind, it's easy to forget what made you begin in the first place. Maybe it was to build a better future, to prove something to yourself, to provide for your family, or to achieve a dream you've carried for years. Reconnecting with your original reason gives your effort meaning again. You're not just fighting to finish a task, you're fighting for the outcome that matters most to you. On the hardest days, lower your expectations for perfection, but keep the expectation of effort. You don't have to accomplish everything at your highest level every day. Some days will be about simply showing up and putting in whatever you can. Even a minimal effort keeps you connected to the habit of moving forward. Missing entirely breaks the chain and makes it harder to start again tomorrow. It's also important to manage your internal dialogue during these moments. The voice in your head will try to convince you that stopping is the smart choice. It will point to the lack of progress, highlight every obstacle, and remind you of every past failure. You have to recognize that voice for what it is, a survival instinct trying to protect you from discomfort, but growth requires discomfort. You can acknowledge the feeling without letting it decide your actions. Sometimes pushing through requires changing your environment. If you've been stuck in the same place for too long, both mentally and physically, it can drain your energy. Work somewhere different, change your routine, or even just take a walk to clear your head. A change in surroundings can help you see the work from a fresh perspective and give you the spark you need to keep going. Another strategy is to break the isolation of those hard moments. Share your struggle with someone who understands and supports your goal. A short conversation with the right person can give you the encouragement you need to take the next step. But choose carefully. Some people will reinforce your desire to quit by agreeing with your doubts. Others will remind you why you can't give up and will push you to keep going. Surround yourself with the latter. Rest can also be a form of pushing through. Pushing through doesn't always mean grinding yourself into exhaustion. Sometimes it means giving yourself the recovery you need to return stronger, but the key is to rest with intention, not as an escape. There's a difference between taking a break to recharge and walking away because it's hard. The first keeps you in the game. The second takes you out of it. When you push through a difficult day, you send a powerful message to yourself. I don't quit just because it's uncomfortable. That message becomes part of your identity. The more you prove it to yourself, the more naturally it comes. Over time you start to see yourself as someone who follows through, no matter the circumstances, and that identity will carry you through challenges far greater than the one in front of you now. You also have to accept that progress is not always visible in the moment. Some of the most important work you do will not show results right away. This is one of the hardest truths to accept when you feel like quitting. You may not get the reward today, tomorrow, or even next week. But every bit of effort you put in is building something beneath the surface. Quitting means you'll never see that effort pay off. Continuing means you give yourself the chance to see the breakthrough when it comes. There's a mental shift that happens when you stop treating challenges as signs you should quit and start treating them as the very reason to continue. The obstacle is not proof that your path is wrong. It's proof that your path requires growth, and growth is exactly what you're here for. If the road were easy, everyone would take it. But the road that challenges you is the road that transforms you. You can make it easier to push through by creating systems that remove the need for constant decision-making. If every day you have to decide whether or not to do the work, you're giving yourself the option to quit. Build habits and routines so that action becomes automatic. You wake up, you follow your process, and you do the work because it's what you do, not because you've decided to fight yourself into doing it again today. It's also valuable to keep track of your wins, no matter how small. When you feel like quitting, it's easy to forget how far you've come. Looking back at your progress can remind you that your effort hasn't been wasted. It can show you that you've already overcome challenges you once thought were impossible, and you can do it again. One of the most empowering things about pushing through is realizing that the feeling of wanting to quit is temporary. You might feel completely drained right now, but that feeling will pass. The challenge that seems overwhelming today will eventually shrink in your memory. What will last is the result of your persistence. But if you give up, the regret will outlive the struggle. The truth is, everyone feels like quitting at some point. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not that the successful never feel like giving up, it's that they keep going anyway. They accept that some days will feel harder than others, but they trust that each step forward, no matter how small, is still progress. When you reach the end of a hard day and you've done the work despite wanting to quit, you've already won. That day becomes part of the foundation of your resilience, and the next time you feel like giving up, you'll remember that you've been here before, you've pushed through, and you've come out stronger on the other side. Your future self is counting on you to keep going today. The version of you who achieves the goals you've set needs you to stay in the fight. The person you want to become will only exist if you keep moving through the moments that feel impossible. And one day, you'll look back at the days you wanted to quit as the days that defined you.
Chapter 9. Choose actions that match the life you want. The life you want will not appear by chance. It will not simply show up because you wish for it, talk about it, or imagine it. It will only come when the things you do each day line up with the person you say you want to become. Every choice you make is either building the life you want or building a life you don't. And the truth is, most people don't realize they're building the wrong one until years have passed. If you want to avoid that trap, you have to be intentional about making sure your actions reflect your vision. The first step is being honest about what you truly want. Many people skip this step and start chasing what looks good to others or what they've been told they should want. They work hard, but for goals that aren't theirs. This is why they feel unfulfilled, even when they achieve them. You have to clearly define what kind of life will make you feel proud and satisfied. That means thinking deeply about what matters most to you, what kind of work you want to do, how you want to spend your days, and what kind of relationships you want to have. Once you know what you want, you have to compare it to the way you're living right now. This is where many people get uncomfortable. They see the gap between their dreams and their habits, between their goals and their daily choices. But that discomfort is valuable. It's a signal that change is needed. If your dream is to be financially independent but you spend without discipline, your actions are pulling you away from your goal. If you want strong health but you neglect exercise and eat poorly, you're building a future that contradicts your desires. The gap between what you want and what you do is where most dreams are lost. The good news is that you can close that gap, but it takes deliberate action. You have to look at every decision and ask, does this move me closer to the life I want or further away? That question should become part of how you think. Over time, it will guide you naturally toward better choices, but at first you'll need to be conscious about it, because your old habits will try to pull you back to what's familiar. You also have to accept that matching your actions to your goals will require sacrifice. You can't keep doing everything you're doing now and expect a completely different life later. You will have to give up some comforts, delay some pleasures, and say no to things that don't align with your direction. This is where people often struggle. They want change without giving up anything. But every yes to something that doesn't serve your goal is a no to something that does. Your time, energy, and focus are limited. You can't afford to waste them on actions that give you nothing in return. This means being selective about where you put your effort. It means learning to walk away from activities, commitments, and even relationships that are not part of the life you're building. Some of these will be hard to let go of, but holding on will cost you far more in the long run. Another key is consistency. One right action done once is not enough. Change comes from aligning your behavior with your vision day after day, even when progress feels slow. Many people take a few steps toward their dream, then slip back into their old pattern. They think the small slip doesn't matter, but it does,
because each slip delays your progress and weakens your discipline. If you want lasting change, you have to keep showing up for your vision every single day. It's also important to be realistic about your actions. They have to be within your control. You can't control the timing of every opportunity or the actions of other people, but you can control what you do each day. Focus on actions that depend on you building your skills, improving your habits, managing your time, and creating the conditions for your goals to happen. Waiting for perfect circumstances will keep you stuck. Acting on what you can control moves you forward. One reason people fail to align their actions with their goals is that they get distracted by short-term comfort. They choose what feels good now over what will feel better later. It's easier to watch another show than to work on your side project. Easier to buy something you want now than to save for what you need later. But each of these choices has a cost. The life you want is built from the choices you make when no one is watching, and when giving in would be easy. Matching your actions to your vision also means surrounding yourself with people who support that vision. If your environment constantly encourages choices that go against your goals, you will struggle. But when you're around people who live with purpose and discipline, it becomes easier to live that way yourself. Their actions will challenge you to stay consistent with your own. You also have to be patient. Big changes don't happen overnight. It may take months or even years for your actions to fully reshape your life. That's why you must trust the process. Even if you can't see the results yet, you must believe that every aligned action is building something under the surface. Just as poor choices compound into a worse future, good choices compound into a better one. The results may be invisible for a while, but they will come. Review your actions regularly. Don't just assume you're on track. Take time every week to evaluate whether your actions are still aligned with your goals. Life changes, circumstances shift, and sometimes your goals evolve. Your actions should evolve with them. This ongoing review keeps you from drifting off course without realizing it. It's also worth noting that alignment doesn't mean perfection. There will be days when you fall short, when you make a choice that doesn't match your vision. That's part of being human. What matters is that you notice it, correct it, and return to the path quickly. The longer you stay out of alignment, the harder it is to get back. A practical way to ensure your actions match your desired life is to create daily non-negotiables, specific habits or tasks you commit to no matter what. These could be as simple as exercising for 30 minutes, reading something educational, or working on your personal project for an hour. These non-negotiables become the foundation of your progress. No matter how unpredictable your day is, they keep you anchored to your goal. When you live this way, something powerful happens. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start feeling like you're creating it. You become intentional instead of reactive. You no longer wait for luck or for the right opportunity to come along. You start shaping your life through your choices, day by day. The gap between the life you have and the life you want will close, only if you close it with your actions. Every choice is a brick in the foundation of your future. If you choose actions that reflect your vision, you'll eventually stand in the life you imagined. If you choose actions that contradict your vision, you'll end up somewhere you never planned to be. The difference is not fate, it's what you do every single day. Chapter 10. Keep building even when progress feels too slow. There will be times when you work day after day and the results seem invisible. You put in the hours, you put in the effort, you stay consistent, and yet the changes are so small they're almost impossible to see. This is where most people lose heart. They start to believe their effort doesn't matter, that maybe they're wasting their time. But this is the exact point where the difference between those who succeed and those who quit becomes clear. Success is built by the people who keep going when progress feels slow. It's natural to want results quickly. We live in a world that rewards speed and instant gratification. But anything worth building takes time. The stronger the foundation you're trying to create, the more invisible that work will be in the beginning. Think about it. Most of the important steps in building something lasting happen before anyone else can see it. But because we can't see that progress right away, we start doubting whether it's happening at all. This is where patience becomes more than a virtue. It becomes a requirement. Patience isn't passive waiting. It's active persistence. It's the ability to keep putting in the work even when you're not getting the recognition, the validation, or the measurable progress you want. People who build lives of real direction understand that they're playing the long game. They don't measure success only by what they can see today. They measure it by whether they're doing the right things consistently over time. When progress feels slow, your mind will start offering you easy exits. It will suggest you try something new, change direction, or take a break just for a while. It will whisper that maybe this path isn't for you. But often slow progress is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's a sign that you're still in the building phase. The work you're doing now is setting up the results you'll see later. If you abandon it too soon, you'll never reach the point where the benefits show. This is why you need to trust the process. Trusting the process means believing that consistent effort in the right direction will eventually pay off, even if you can't see it yet. It's about focusing on what you can control: your effort, your habits, your attitude, rather than obsessing over what you can't control, like the exact timeline of results. The moment you shift your attention to what's in your hands, the slow pace becomes less frustrating because you know you're doing your part. Another important part of building through slow progress is adjusting your perspective on time. Many people overestimate what they can do in a short period, but underestimate what they can accomplish over years. When you only measure your success in days or weeks, the pace will always feel too slow. But if you zoom out and look at your life in terms of years, you'll see that steady, incremental growth is more than enough to transform everything. Slow progress also forces you to build skills and resilience that fast progress never would. When things come easily, you don't learn how to stay disciplined when it's hard. You don't develop the grit to keep going through uncertainty. Those skills are only forged during the stretches where results are delayed. And once you've built them, you carry them into every future goal. They become part of who you are. You should also remember that results don't always show in a straight line. Sometimes you'll work for months without seeing much change, then everything will shift quickly. That's because progress often builds beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Think of it like compounding effort. The early stages look small, but eventually the gains multiply. You can't skip those early, slow stages without weakening the final outcome. One of the best ways to stay motivated during slow progress is to track small wins. Instead of only measuring the big milestones, keep a record of every meaningful step forward. These could be new skills you've learned, small habits you've kept, or even the fact that you showed up and did the work on a hard day. These small wins prove to you that movement is happening, even if it's not dramatic yet. It's also critical to manage your expectations. Unrealistic timelines set you up for disappointment. If you expect massive change in a short time, you'll think you're failing when you're not. Be honest about how long real transformation takes. The more realistic your expectations, the easier it is to keep going without constantly questioning yourself. You may also need to resist the temptation to compare your timeline to someone else's. People start from different places, with different resources, opportunities, and challenges. Someone else's progress has nothing to do with your own. Comparing will only make you impatient and drain your focus. Your only real comparison should be between where you are now and where you were before. Another key to building when progress feels slow is making sure your actions remain aligned with your goals. Sometimes slow progress isn't just about time, it's about inefficiency. Take a close look at what you're doing each day. Are your actions truly moving you toward your vision, or have you fallen into habits that feel productive but don't actually matter? Honest self-review keeps you from wasting time while also reinforcing your commitment to the work that counts. Slow progress can also teach you to appreciate the journey rather than only chasing the destination. When results are instant, you skip over the deeper lessons, but when you have to work for something over time, you start to value the process itself, the discipline, the problem solving, the moments of personal growth that happen along the way. This appreciation will keep you moving long after others have quit. Another important strategy is breaking your big goals into smaller, achievable phases. When you're working on something huge, it can feel endless, but if you divide it into stages, each with its own set of actions, you'll have more frequent moments of accomplishment. These mini goals give you something to celebrate along the way and make the journey feel less overwhelming. Accountability can also help you through periods of slow progress. When you share your goals with someone who supports you, they can remind you why you started and push you to keep going when your motivation fades. Just make sure your accountability partners are people who believe in your vision and will encourage persistence, not people who will push you toward quitting when it gets hard. It's also helpful to remind yourself that slow progress is still progress. Standing still is the real danger, not moving slowly. As long as you're moving forward, you're closer to your goal than you were yesterday. Even the smallest step forward is proof that you're not giving up, and the habit of taking those small steps is what will eventually carry you to the finish line. When you finally reach a breakthrough, you'll look back and realize that the slow seasons were the most important. They were the times when you proved to yourself that you could keep going without constant validation. They were the times when you developed the patience, discipline, and strength to handle bigger challenges later. You'll see that without those periods, your success wouldn't have the same depth or stability. So when progress feels too slow, remember that the pace doesn't define the value of your work. Your commitment does. The question isn't how fast you're moving, it's whether you're still moving at all. Every day you choose to keep building, even when the results are invisible, you're stacking the bricks that will eventually become the life you want. And when it finally comes together, you'll know it wasn't luck, talent, or perfect timing that got you there. It was the decision to keep going when it would have been easier to stop.